Hi traders and welcome to Pepperstone's market wrap on Friday the 22nd of May. So we haven't seen any great movements over the last couple of days since the Wednesday night webinar. A lot of the majors and a lot of the good cross-currency pairs have really come to a bit of a standstill at important support and resistance zones, but they could be ready to break into a particular direction either way. We'll jump into them now and have a look and see if we can identify the next move on this Friday morning. So we'll start out with the Aussie. The daily chart shows us that it's obviously had a little bit of an issue getting past this level over here. It's threatening to break out. Look, there's no question about that, but it still finds itself a mine a little bit in no man's land because really it needs to get up to at least a 67 sort of 20 probably at the very, very least before it's going to find any serious form of resistance. It's going to have a little bit here, at around that sort of 66.80. But that's very standard. We know the 80-20 zone is always going to play a little bit of havoc. So your first point of call is probably there. But that's still a good 100 pips away. So for all intents and purposes, it's still in a higher high, higher low pattern. You can still see that it's making that. It looked like it was going to weaken here. It found support at the 20 and the 50. And that has bolstered it up and has pushed to a new high. Before we get excited about this one, though, we need to see a close above this candle here. So we want to see a daily close, above that probably 66.30 to be safe. If we get that, we can push on and try and get that 50 to 60 pips before the first real resistance starts, and then be careful around that 40 pips up there. So there is certainly scope for this one. It's not one that I'd be looking at any quality shorts at the moment because not until at least it reaches a good resistance point. So we want to be looking for the longs on that one. If it does indeed turn around and make a series of lower highs and lower lows, which still be quite a while away on the daily chart, then we're looking at shorting it. So if you're going to short it, you're going to be pretty careful because we are in a trend here. There's no question about that. We've got the moving average crossover and the moving averages are holding it up. So just a wait and see, but probably just reloading on pullbacks and aiming for that 66.80 to 67.20 area. Okay, we'll move on to the US dollar CAD. We've got this one on a 4-hour chart at the moment. I'll take it out to a daily so you can see what it is actually doing. We've got some really good support at this level here. It's been there for quite some time now. It's threatening to break down. Yeah, the highs. The one thing about this one is you've got to be mindful that the highs are getting lower each time. I mean, you could draw a triangle there. It's definitely getting lower. Okay, so it's a very long played out triangle if you're going to look at it that way, considering we are on a daily. Like this is they're only just lower, but they certainly are. That generally shows that there is weakness forming. The buyers are losing momentum a bit earlier every time it does rebound off this important level at around that 138.80. So it's just one to watch. You have to really look for the breakdown of the highs. So if it continues to make lower highs, and it continues to find support here, we'll take it down to a smaller time frame again and break it down a little bit further. As you can see, we've got obviously some really, really good support here. It's landed here every time. It's found reasonable rebounds off the smaller time frames. You can see here we've got a double bottom on the 1 hour that's a lot clearer. Not a great one. I mean, it only went up to the neckline. It's not like it actually did anything, but it has broken up. And technically, what we can see here is a series of higher highs and higher lows. We've got our low, our high, a higher low, and we have made a higher high. This is one of those ones, though, where we know that the upside is under pressure. There's no question about that. So we wouldn't be that keen on taking it long for a very long extended period of time. So for mine, I would want to see one more series of highs. So, I'd like to see this turn around, find some support here on the moving averages, and then break up above the one sort of 39.70 to 80 area, close above there, and then look to take it long. First point of call is going to be obviously the resistance that we can see up above. That would be where you would think it would be heading. If it doesn't make it up there and actually turns around and comes back and tests this support again, I would dare say that this support is going to be under extraordinary pressure, because if it fails to make at least the lower highs, in sync with what it's been doing, then the buyers have lost a fair bit of, serious momentum. The 200 could stop it, but again, this is only an hour, so, it's probably going to provide a little bit of resistance for us, but shouldn't be enough to stop it from hopefully getting up there. We are about to get a 20-50 moving average crossover on the 1 hour, so it bodes well if we get a long position entry, like an hour close up here, and I'd be happy to take this up for a little bit. All right, US dollar Swissy is the next one we'll look at. So, yeah, painting the same picture. It has been for a long time. We had the short over. This is a daily, so we can see we've got a big short here. Pretty much call it 60 or 70 points. Pips came down, found the support that we're always looking for on this one. Still, obviously, in this nice little zone, not really doing anything. Scalper's heaven, long off the support, short off the resistance. Moving averages flatlining completely, have not changed, so they're basically running as horizontal as you're ever going to see moving averages run, which tells us that obviously there is no trend. So we're playing this one completely sideways, but it's still providing really, really good opportunities to scalp. So just continue to do that until we get a serious break in either direction, but that's not looking likely. We're certainly not looking likely according to the technicals that we can see here. Okay, we'll go on to the US dollar yen now. This has been a bit of an interesting one. Just threatened to break down and start to sell off, but we had our series of lower highs and lower lows, which led me to believe that maybe we're starting to head to the 1.5 promised land. But it's had a little bit of a rebound over the last over the last 2 weeks. It's definitely started to pick up. So we've got a change of trend effectively. We've got our series of higher highs and higher lows again, but we're getting a little bit wicky over here. The only thing that worries me about this trade is that, resistance is not very far away, and it's very, very serious resistance at that. So any attempts to go long on this one are going to be, into a pretty solid resistance zone. So you have to be mindful that although, it does look like it's tracking up, you're only going to get that sort of 40 or 50 pip move. So what you want to be doing, definitely, you've got a clear target. This is the one, just similar to the others, that you take to a lower time frame and look for a change of trend in this area. So, basically, we're not seeing a hell of a lot on the 1 hour, but what we'd want to see is, at the very, very least, a turnaround around this point, maybe find a little bit of resistance off one of these points here, and start tracking up higher, break this high here, and probably aim for that 30 to 40 pips. But it's really a scalping one. It's not giving us any long-term direction. So we have to basically trade between the ranges on this one as well. A little bit boring, but still providing some scalping opportunities. And if it does continue to make a new high here and gets up above the 108, the moving averages would have crossed on the daily, which we know is significant. So there's a good chance that it'll test that resistance and hopefully break through and give us some direction. Okay, the S&P 500. This has been a little bit stale over the last little bit. It's given us, the last 3 or 4 days. We had a big early move early in the week, but the last 2 or 3 days have been, basically status quo for it. It's having a lot of difficulty closing above 29.50. So this is proving to be quite a reasonable role reversal area now. So we've always said, before we go long on this, it has to have a solid break over the 3,000. And a close above the 3,000, not just breaking it. So until it does that, I'm not inclined to take it long into the 3,000 because it's obviously at a pretty serious point of resistance. Looking for probably short scalping opportunities, but in saying that, we're not looking for the big short either. So it's not giving us a big turnaround trend direction yet. It's going to take a bit of a move in the market for that to happen. But that doesn't mean that we haven't got scalping opportunities. The zones are very clear. If you are going to short this, it's probably to around the 2,800 level. So that's about 150 points of movement. Go to the smaller time frames and identify the little changes of trend and basically trade within those bands until we get the break, either a close above 3,000 or a close below that key 2720 area. We get a close below that. And then everything changes for this pair or for the indices. So that's what we're looking for. 3,000 and 2720. Trade everything in between when you get the opportunities to. All right, we'll go on to the dollar index now. This has found itself at a really nice roll reversal zone. It's found support here several times. Unlike the CAD though, the highs are not as weak as they are. So you can see that although they're not quite as high, they're not very far apart. And if you put that on a line chart, you're probably going to take out the spikes, and they're going to be very, very similar. Okay, so it's not really giving us an inclination that's going to be weak. It's just found itself at a pretty reasonable level of support. This is not a surprise given that a lot of the other major pairs are at very key levels as well. So no real surprises here to find it at this level. until it breaks it and closes well below it, I wouldn't be interested in shorting this one. So, I'm still inclined to take long positions off this support. So I hope everybody's had a great week's trading. We had a really good start to the week, and it's been a little bit quiet over the last few days. But with a little bit of luck, the market will start to move and break some of these key support and resistance zones, and we'll see some really good action later today and hopefully early next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.